contribution to reforestation and beautification in Dominica.
We are going to make our village the most beautiful one
by planting flowers along the roadside.
I'm planting trees at my school so we can have fruits for snack. Yeah!
At the Forestry Division, we are striving to mitigate against coastal degradation. Trees contribute to soil stability, clean air, and pure water.
Building a climate-resilient country requires the contribution of every Dominican. Give back to nature. Plant a tree for your future.
That will be $78.50.
What? All that money for two little things?
And an additional 50 cents if you want a plastic bag.
All you get enough of my money already. I worked with my reusable bag. It's stronger and all I need is one. Or you shouldn't even be giving plastic bags. Or you're not hearing all the announcements from Ministry of Environment then. For the little bit of time we use a plastic bag, it takes thousands of years to decompose. That's not good for the environment. And another thing...
Wait, Papa. Next, please.
My lady, she writes, plastic clogs drains and cause flooding. Animals on land and water can also be killed by plastic pollution.
Opt out of using plastic bags when possible or use reusable shopping bags for carrying groceries and other items. Remember, our environment, our responsibility.
Plastics must go. Let's spend them all. Join me and shout.
Dominic c'est un pays qui belle, qui naturel. Dominic c'est pays nous. Mais qui ça ou ka fait pour aider Dominic? Nous ne pour protéger forêt nous, l'eau nous, environ nous et même santé nous. Quand ça change, là où qu'allez faire commission, mener un sac, empêcher pollution plastique. Plus plastique, ça fait environ nous l'aide, boucher dalle nous, et ça tue bête nous et poisson qui englobe nous. Changer aussi, qui nous n'est pour chaîne là tout nous net. Pas ni jeter zodis n'importe côté, pas garder pour excuse, pas faire compte doum, servi en boîte zodis. Écoutez bien, ou ça même un des beltes Dominique, ou ça planter fleurs pour chimère en communauté, planter pe bois qui ça un des menées forêt à vivre, et pour produire nous, et puis fruits pour manger.
Good morning to listeners of DBS Radio, and welcome to another episode of the program brought to you by the Ministry of Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment and Constituency Empowerment, Talking Environment or Responsibility. I am the host of the program. My name is Liam Sebastian. I'd like to use the opportunity to say good morning to the Honorable Minister, Honorable Kozia Frederick, the Parliamentary Secretary, Honorable Darren Lloyd, the Permanent Secretary, Miss Lisa Valmont, all the heads of department, members of staff, particularly the admin staff at the office, and by extension, the government service, and to our regular listeners of this radio program. This morning, we'll have a slight change to what was announced last week for logistical reasons. So this morning, we're having a discussion with the folks at the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation, where we will be discussing sorting at source, where we talk about small action, big impact. Anybody wants to join in this morning can do so on the following numbers: 1-800-327-448-3284 on the overseas line 305-432-9744. So these numbers again: 1-800-327-448-3284 on the overseas line 305-432-9744. Let me just go over to Studio 2. Before I go ahead, you can also tune in and follow the program live on the Ministry of Environment Facebook page, DBS Facebook page, or on DBS YouTube channel for those of you who are not tuned into the radio, and you can also have a look later on. So again, let me just go over to Studio 2 and say good morning and give them the opportunity, my guests, to welcome themselves.
Hi Liam, good morning. I'm Florian Mitchell, the General Manager of the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation. And I have in studios with me my colleague, the Public Education Officer. Yourself.
Hi, good morning to everyone. My name is Rhoda St. John and I am the Public Education Officer for the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation. It's always a pleasure being with you.
All right. Thank you very much, lady and gentleman, for joining me on the program this morning. As we said, we we talking about sorting at source, so we're going straight into it as we start our discussion. And well, the first question I posed to, I'm not sure who's going to tackle it, but in the recent national budget, the government mentioned plans to decentralize waste management, and I'm sure persons would be interested in that. So for the benefit of the average person, can we just explain what decentralizing waste means for the average household?
Yeah, I will. Since in the cricket T20 era, I will open the batting. So again, it's always a pleasure to be on this medium and to be able to provide critical information pertaining to the overall waste management infrastructure in Dominica. And I am so happy, Mr. Sebastian, that you actually started with this particular question, noting that any major or significant activity with waste management, there is also there is a need for policy or legislative component. And in the 2025-2026 budget address, the Prime Minister articulated 8 significant areas pertaining to waste management, and all of in the view of improving waste management services. When we speak of decentralization, waste management, as we know, in Dominica and by extension, almost all of our CARICOM partners, is linear in approach. You dispose or you get rid or you discard of packaging material, you transport it via a truck, and you put it to rest at a sanitary landfill. Decentralization would consider not going to a final landfill, but having other elements. I'm trying to be as basic as I can. Other elements that would allow that waste to be processed more on a communal level. So what would allow us to do, instead of transporting all that material from Marigot or Portsmouth or wherever to one central location, decentralization would allow us to position our resources and our equipment where the material that is generated can be processed. And I'm using this word process, I'm not saying landfill. So there's a difference between processing and landfilling. And when we're using the terminology processing, we are thinking material recovery facilities, we are thinking eco-hubs, we are thinking communal stations that would allow us to recycle, repurpose, and use that product for a commodity. So that is what decentralization of the waste management services will ultimately look like.
All right. So as we're talking about decentralizing, we know that we received some new trucks recently, and we also have heard some of the challenges. Do you think that some of these trucks should be stored in different locations, and if so, what benefits you think that will have on waste management and disposal?
So definitely, that is again that is in keeping with your decentralization system. So it would mean that your resources that you are utilizing for whether you're collecting municipal solid waste or you're collecting your recycled waste stream. So let's just look at a scenario. So I think there is about 45 miles from Portsmouth to landfill, thereabout. You send a garbage truck to Portsmouth, right, to clean a particular area. You have to factor the distance, and then you try to tweak the work that the area that is going to be collected could be collected within sufficient time for the 8 hour that is allocated for that particular staff or shift. Imagine having a resource recovery facility further up north. It means that the time and turnaround time within communities from collection to your processing facility, you narrow the time. You can increase on your efficiency, collect more waste at a shorter span of time, and all the other pre-requirements in terms of your fuel, your maintenance, all your other associated costs in having a vehicle hauling waste for 40-something miles back and forth every day. You could cut that down. So all those maintenance costs that is really affecting your ability, because the more you drive a vehicle, the more costs you have. And so the closer you could treat that material to a regional location or regional center, you're going to reduce all those affiliated costs, and then you're going to have your vehicles on the road for a longer period, and some of the issues or the challenges we have with breakdown, you're going to see a greater efficiency and having your fleet always up on the road. So that is one of the key issues of having that regional approach and having your vehicle stationed in particular zones.
So as we speak, are they stored in these locations, or is it plans afoot to have them in the future?
Okay, so if you like, for example, in Portsmouth, we have a compactor truck that is stationed in Portsmouth, but we don't have the processing capability that your decentralization system would allow. So we still have to haul the material from Portsmouth to landfill. So the operational cost for that equipment is very high. And as we begin to integrate the trucks that we receive into the system, we'll be basically having trucks per zone. So the trucks will be basically, in terms of the usage, it will be less in terms of the route that they have to cover. But again, because of the sheer distance, imagine you saying a truck to Marigot and having to do 2 hauls every single day. The cost associated is going to be very high. So as we implement the trucks and improve on our efficiency in collections, we will have our truck stations per zone, but not necessarily the decentralization whereby the processing is done in a particular region.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So I guess that will be good news for the average person in terms of waste collection and all of that, to hear that the trucks will be stored in various locations. So it makes it, so I guess some of the challenges and the delays that we have, that may sort of cushion that in a sense.
Yeah, so I mean, if we just go back to the budget measures, I think based on the measure, a location of equipment was made mention, and we have met the quota of the equipment that was promised by the government. And I mean, if you wherever in Dominica, you'd see a vast improvement in the efficiency of the collection system in the past couple of weeks. And then we have went a bit further. We noticed that there were also challenges. So you'd have certain areas in our island where you have collection points, and sometimes some of those locations we have an abuse of those collection points, and we have still, as we speak, the Office of the Prime Minister, we contracted a few additional teams, private haulers, to bridge the gap in some of those areas that you could see. So if you're in Point Michel, or if you're in Maho, if you're in the Bagatelle PD7 area, a lot of the other communities where we have gaps in the system, Grand Bay, again, kudos to the Prime Minister and for his office to facilitate that level of engagement with the private sector, to ensuring that the accuracy of the waste management is kept at a high level.
All right. Sort at source. We have heard a lot about that in the past few months. If for those of us who have been in social media, the radio, and all of those things. For those listening and maybe new to the terminology of sorting at source, and if somebody is not sure how to start, because at the end of the day, this is something new for us, whether we like it or not, in that, to get, I didn't say me, I see Rhoda is watching me very, very confused. Not new for me, but generally it's new for us, as in sorting that source, and, placing our garbage in different receptacles and all of that for disposal. Explain in simple terms, what does that mean?
I will let Rhoda take the lead on this one, and I can chime in, but I'll let her take the lead.
Okay, so basically when we say sort at source at the corporation, we basically mean to separate your waste from your home. Sort your garbage from home, which means separate your recyclables from your glass bottles, from your compost waste, from your general waste. So please, what we're asking you to do is do not commingle your waste. Separating your waste, sorting at source, means no commingling of waste. Your recyclables, plastic bottles, glass bottles, and tin cans goes one way. Your composting goes another way. And then your general waste is placed out for the garbage truck. Your recyclables is not put out to the garbage truck. Only your general waste.
Florian, you want to join on that?
Yeah, so when we speak sort of source, we are not just speaking sort of source at the residential level. We would like to see sort at source practice at your commercial institution. Noting that waste management, or the product that we are seeking to dispose of, is basically, most of it is packaging in construct. So you have your cardboard, you have your glass, you have your cans, you have your plastic, and there are 7 types of plastic from 1 to 7. So 1 being the most common, which is the water bottles that we see. Your average water bottle is PET 1. And it's just a level of discipline. I mean, from the onset, it might be a bit challenging for you to discipline yourself. I mean, I know we've had those kinds of discussion, Liam. It's just a matter of discipline. You just start. You remove your glass, your plastic, your cans. I know sometimes people may say it's very difficult to have multiple bags. We say, okay, if the multiple bag is very difficult, get a clear plastic bag, and then you put your glass, your plastic, and your cans in that, so it's easily visible. So the collectors will know, okay, that is just for my recycling. Because of the glass bottles, I mean, they are very hazardous by construct if it's if it's broken and stuff like that. So we basically advocate a double bag where you don't have a crate, because some of the communities you may have a crate, you don't have a crate. So we ask for a double bag approach. And then your organic waste stream. A lot of us, we live in the rural areas. And then that content, that material, that is what that decomposes. When you put it in your bin or your bag or wherever you place it, you're going to see maggots very, very quick because of the nature of organic matter. It's going to biodegrade, and it's going to, by nature of what the material is, you're going to get maggots. And that is where a lot of your smell comes from. And if you could just take this material, place it in your backyard, place it in a box, you could do composting at your home in your potch on a box. We could share some tutorial with that. What happens is that it reduces the volume of waste that you have to place out for collections. And when there are issues with disruption in the service, because you're able to manage your waste and you remove the material that will pose the direct threat of vermin, flies, rats, and you're able to deal with it in a way that is proper in terms of the composting of it, then you reduce this on your waste stream, and then you are able to manage it much more in a more environmentally sound manner, and then you reduce this on the amount of waste that you have to put. Now, when we are able to do that, what happens is that when the material comes to the landfill, we are not going to take that separated waste and put it in the landfill. We are going to take that material and we are going to deposit it at our facility that we have for further processing of our recycling. Because at our facility, the glass, the plastic, the cans, we separate them to a certain degree. We put clear glass by itself, green, amber, whatever they are. They have to be sorted for exportation purposes. Even for the plastics, PET 1 and PET 2 is not the same. And even when they come to the landfill, again, we have to do some further sorting and for processing for export. And it makes it easier. So the more waste we can sort at source, the more waste we can divert from our landfill. And when we begin to divert the waste from our landfill, there will be no need for having a landfill in Stock Farm, in Fokole, and the other ensuing issues that arise from having a landfill and when you have a landfill fire. So, I mean, as you said, it is something new, but it's something that I believe we can do. It is one of my co-workers, a former co-worker, said it nicely. We are the kitchen and we separate food. So when you're cooking, you have a pot, you put your rice and your whatever, your meat, you cut your vegetables, and you make the plate look nice. So it's just a similar approach to the waste. So the same way you can put the food and it's presented nice on the plate. So we're saying where the waste management is concerned, if you do the same approach by separating, you could be contributing to a better waste management system in Dominica.
Well, Florian, one thing I must say, and I have to say it openly, PS has been very, very strict on us. And in fact, she has been coming down on you for a number of weeks to get us the bags so that we, the staff, can practice sorting at source. So this is something that, we are not just saying it, we obviously have to practice it. But you made mention of some of the possible issues. You talk about fires and landfilling and so on. What are some of the challenges that it poses to you all at the landfill and at solid waste if we do not sort at source? As it relates to when the waste comes into the landfill, if it's just, just everything in one bag. What are some of the challenges that it poses?
Okay, so as Rhoda said, commingle. So the word there is commingle. So when your waste comes in commingle, we do not have the infrastructure that is required. So you need like mechanized system to sort that material. But because it is commingle and we are using manual procedure, it's almost difficult to take that waste and drop it at the processing facility. So that is why we are running the recycling parallel. And that's why we're asking for it to be separated. So if we take the recycled material, which is a cleaner material, it is easier for the system that we have in place for manual sorting. Now, when we would have the infrastructure in place and we have the automated system, you can take it commingle because you basically have equipment processing it. But as is, the material that is commingled, there are issues for public health and the staff treating it. So that is why it's easier that you separate it at home. So it's easier for us to process final processing in the way that we are doing. But if you were to just send it commingled in construct, because of our limitations in terms of the infrastructure and the specialized equipment that is needed, that volume of waste, and again, it's a volume. So we collect 50 tons of waste every day. So imagine 5 staff processing recycled material and you're passing all that waste stream to them. It cannot be done because of the sheer volumes. So that is why we are asking for this sort separation. When we're able to fully utilize our decentralization system, we'll have the infrastructure. So whether it's commingled or not, we'll have the equipment to be able to reduce on the impact to human health. I mean, as we speak, Liam, I was shying away from saying it, but sometimes the material that is placed in a garbage bag, sometimes when the compactor truck squeeze or compacts that, our guys have to go in the sea and bathe. So imagine putting that through the normal system and having somebody to pick for it. Some of the issues that we're going to face. So that is why we're asking for the sort separation at source, so it's easy to be able to pull out the recyclables from the point of generation, whether it's a commercial entity who's trying to dispose of stuff at the landfill or from the residential level.
I don't think you should be sugarcoating anything. You should say it as it is, because when solid waste is at fault, you hear of everything that needs to be said. So if we as the residents and the citizens are not doing what needs to be done to assist or disposing of our waste properly, we ought to know that there are issues and circumstances that will fall out from our action. So if you have anything that needs to be said, Florian, by all means, you have to say it, because I'm sure if today there's an area that has a delay in garbage, somebody might call and give you some flack for that. So that's fine if you have to say what you have to say. And then, as you just said, some of the garbage that is being disposed, what are some of the main categories do we have? Is it bottles, cans, and just garbage, or there are other?
You're talking on recycling, or you're talking in general?
Well, in general, for sorting at source.
Okay, for sort at source, we're looking at our recycling program. So when you sort at source, you're actually separating. So when you hear the word sort, think of separation. When you hear the word at source, think of your home. Separate at home. Sort at source, separate at home. So when you take your plastic bottles, your glass bottles, and your tin cans, they don't go in your garbage. They don't go in your general waste. So that alone, you begin to separate your waste from your home. You begin to sort at source. It's an easy mathematical equation. Take your plastics, your water bottles, your butter bowls, your peanut butter containers, your mayonnaise containers, your fabric softener, Fabuloso, Clorox, all of these plastic containers. if you want us to list them, do not at no time put it in your general waste. Get a separate bag and you put it in there for the recycling truck. It's as simple as that, Liam. Everything that you see in your eyes that is plastic, do not put it in your waste.
As you saying that, I just remember when we were doing the campaign at TV Lash.
Yes.
There was somebody, I think it was Sweden or something like that, who came and then he saw, the two. Well, you have a caller. Let's see if we can get to that call. Caller, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good
Morning to your guests. Listening to your program, I'm all the way in the U.S., Boston. Let me tell you, right? I have seen. I'm just asking, is the solid waste or any department will be or is going to provide a specific or special receptacle for the bottles and the cans, whatnot? Because I hear you mention about plastic bags. Well, you see, those things are so, inferior. That when, I know sometimes people put out their waste prior, before, and even just after the truck has passed. Are you going to have specific receptacles for placing those types of waste, like plastic bottles and cans and those things? Because I know for sure I've seen, like in Canada, you have sometimes in front of your house or in your house, you have about 3 different types of receptacles. Even in the US where I am. Now, you have 3 different types of receptacles for placing those waste. Is the department or the environmental people going to provide? And in the provision of that, I think there could also be a small cost for producing or giving the households, receptacle to put this waste.
All right.
That is just a thought, I have seen it other places, so I'm just wondering whether or not this will be done as you go through now the different types of waste. No, well, I will not call a can or a bottle waste. Waste is like fig peel and even that fig peel and those kind of things that can be composted, So I just needed some highlight on that specific topic. Thank you very much.
Right.
Good morning.
Thank you very much, caller, on the overseas line. So, Florian, I think you had 2 points in terms of the receptacles and then the cost factor, if you plan to implement a cost for that. So you can go ahead to respond.
Okay, so first of all, thank you, caller, for calling in. There are a few points that you raised. You made mention of the material. Sometimes we'll put it before and after. We see those things. I think I want to call out a few communities. So if you pass in Baba State, it's a lovely community. If you pass Baba State Tuesday morning, there are certain areas in Baba State you're going to see.
Sorry, we have another caller. Let's see if we can get that caller. So the holy point. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning. Okay, Florian, you can go ahead.
So as I was saying, like there are certain communities, as he was saying, and I'm just calling out a few communities, not for admonition, I think, but that we could improve on what we're doing. So probably in the Bava State area, we are not aware of the garbage collection times, but the garbage truck comes in Bava State Tuesdays and Fridays from 6 p.m. So there's no need to put a bag or a bin out before 8 o'clock in the morning. Certain areas in Rizzo, if you're in Bath Road, and some other areas in the city, you see garbage out at 8 o'clock in the morning. The truck comes in at 7 p.m. So it's just an announcement that the truck comes in the evening. Do not put your waste out in the morning to help reduce on that nature of waste always in the environment. But let me highlight the bin. Again, waste management is a very costly venture and a very costly undertaking. And one of the pronouncement in the budget address was the consideration for, I guess the Minister of Finance spoke of, probably at a later date, considering costs for waste management services. And you would note that the provision of a receptacle is going to cost money. And in developing a waste management infrastructure, every community is not the same. So whereas in Bavay State and Emzal, because of the road, we might be able to give everybody a bin for allowing for source separation of source. When you look, let's say communities like Fokole, where you have a certain level of density, but you don't have the infrastructure in terms of the road, you may consider communal bins. So those are things that ought to be investigated, and then the systems put in place to foster the level of separation that is required. And again, this costs money. And from where I'm sitting and where I'm saying it, those costs, when we talk of waste management and waste management in general, the principal beneficiary of waste management services, every single jurisdiction in Europe, there is a contribution from our pocket to help improve on the system. And in the absence of Barbados, St. Vincent, and Grenada, that we see those systems in place in our region, we have not seen it in other areas. And it works very well, and we can see a direct relationship between the contribution for the everyday citizen to the system and how it improves on the discharge of waste management services. So that is something we welcome, Liam, and it is needful for improving the current waste management infrastructure. And through initiatives with tight turners with BCRC, we've made bins available at the school level. With our good support from NAO and our good friend Miss Roberts, if you pass along some public playing field, or you would see a red metal looking bottle, if you pass at certain schools, those are made available at those institutions to help with the promotion of sorting at source. But on a national level, this would require a significant amount of investment. Again, through decentralization, we're hoping that it will be achieved, but for the sustainability of those programs, it requires us to make our contribution towards the upkeeping of the system. So that is how I would answer his questions with my reflections.
All right, thank you very much for that. Well, before he called, I was about to ask Rhoda, following up on the campaign that we had at TV Village, and I was speaking about the guy from, I think it's Sweden, I stand corrected, but he was amazed at just looking at a small island, trying to basically get into what he look as big city waste management and disposal. And then when we had, I think he was captured on our video when he was placing the bottles and the general waste, he was so amazed. Following that campaign, what are some of the other activities, or what has been done, or what is Solid Waste doing to sort of keep that sort at source, the small impact, big action drive going on? Small action, big impact, sorry.
So to keep the momentum going, what the Dominica Solid Waste Management has been doing is activities that are going on. So from TV Village, we went to Creole Festival, we went to the Way 2 when we were participating in Way 2, and the Christmas village we had up at the Lindo Park. So different programs that comes along, we actually, if we hear about it, we call them or they call us, and the important thing is that persons are calling. So they've seen the importance of it, and individuals who have events are now calling and say, I would like the sort at source program at my event. Can you bring the bins up? And we did it for quite a number of activities and events, and we continue to do that. So that is one of the important things, because when you do stuff and persons understand what you do and they no longer wait on you to call them, but they call you, it shows that your program has done well.
I put you on the spot right now. I don't know how you could forget the carnival floats that we had, because we were in the prizes. So for those people who have looked at the openings and all that, I've seen PS on the road as well as members of staff in their yellow shirts and all that. So I don't know how you forgot that one. So I want you to speak about that carnival one, because you know, there was a prize. We came what? We came second.
We waited on the prize giving ceremony, but yes.
So I don't know how you forgot that.
We came second in the business float for the opening of Carnival and during the Carnival season. And definitely putting ourselves on the spot and exposing salt at sauce in such a grand way, it did a lot for the environment and even to the patrons, because we had members of staff actually going around on the day of opening, picking up the garbage that the patrons and the onlookers were actually throwing on the floor, the bottles, the wrappers. And we said, no, here's a truck. It has over 10 bins on there. Why throw it on the road? Put it in the truck. So we actually demonstrated physically what sorted sauce was, how persons can sorted sauce, what they should throw, in which bin, yellow for recyclables, grey for general. And we took it to Roseau, we took it to Portsmouth, we went to St. Joseph opening, and it was really good. It was really, really good. And the feedback from our people...
I was still saying that she did Roseau twice.
Yes, we did Roseau twice. I'm coming to the other one. So we did the Roseau opening, the Portsmouth opening, the St. Joseph opening, and then on Carnival Tuesday, we also joined the parade on Carnival Tuesday. And fortunately enough, we were behind the flag wavers. And I just want to point out Christelle in particular, one of the flag wavers coordinators, Christelle Fagan. I mean, hats off to you, my dear. Christelle saw the truck and I said, these are for the recyclables. I went to her and she ensured that all the plastic bottles that the flag wavers were using for water, for whatever drink, they came and they placed it in the truck, in the bin behind them. And that was a natural demonstration on that day. I just want to say thank you for understanding the program. Thank you for understanding what we were trying to achieve and working with us to actually get it achieved. Thank you, Christelle.
Well, let me join you in bigging up Chris Stokes on that. But I want to ask though, following up on that, as you mentioned in one individual, but in the national sense, in a broader spectrum of things, do you think that these exhibitions at the various openings, at Creole Festival, at Wato, and all of that, do you think that raised
a very long way?
So you think it goes a long way in terms of the general public?
It goes a very long way, because even persons were, after all of that, were stopping. Are you doing a float next year? I said, yes, we're doing a float next year. Will you open it for registration? Can I join? And I'm like, of course you're going to be able to join the float next year. And we will be going bigger. We'll be doing it on a completely different level. So yes, it is. And even in some of the schools, the teachers I met a few teachers that, you haven't come to my school to talk about sorted sauce, but I see it on the road and my school don't know nothing. So it actually did create a very, very, very heavy impact.
Well, let me ask that challenging question though. As we're talking about the success and all the joy from that, how do we use that momentum that we have now and the consciousness and all of that to make things greater? So as we said, if it gets better in terms of sorting that sauce, Mr. Mitchell made mention of maybe landfill space, and we may not look to have different cells in different places and all of that. So we know the future impact, but now, how is Solid Waste going to capitalize on this momentum that we had in the festive seasons to sort of push that sorted sauce campaign?
Moving forward?
Yeah.
Let me just chime in a bit. So I know the time is almost run out, but I just did not want to leave the radio and not probably highlight the sponsors as well. So we at the Waste Management Authority, we realize that any activities that we are seeking to achieve, if we do not have stakeholders' engagement or support, it cannot really go anywhere. And I would like to highlight my chair, Mr. Shillingford. In early days of our engagement, we've been always speaking of trying to figure out how we could mainstream those activities as part of our national awareness events and stuff. And our PS, Ms. Valmon, PSLM, the minister, Mr. Edgar Hunter and the other solid waste staff and staff at the ministry for trying to really demonstrate what sort of source is and how it could be mainstream. And what we would like to see is the activity is basically to demonstrate how we could mainstream those things at your establishment. And building on the momentum, I think we have a meeting coming up next week because we saw the need to further engage a particular sector of waste import into the, well, not waste, but the resource. Let me use the word resource and not waste. So one of the areas that we note is that there is a particular import that, if it is not managed properly, is a waste, but then the waste is a resource. And we see the need now to have more focused stakeholders engagement based on the category of waste. So when we analyze our waste stream, we're seeing so much tires, so much plastic, so much food waste, so much. So we are now having sectoral stakeholders engagement to try to address the issue of the incoming material. So that is a strength of the sorted source. So we're able to say, okay, these are the stakeholders, these are the interventions that we'd like to see a reduction of that material and how that waste can be considered through another system that would allow our sorted source to go through what you call like a EPR system, where the importer or the person who imports that material has a more day-to-day management approach of that waste, as opposed to the waste being considered a problem for solid waste or something for the state to deal with. And through upscaling our sorted source, we see that these are the stakeholders' engagement that is required to address what you're raising, going beyond just the promotion at the different events.
So, Florian, we speaking sorting at source, and I think recycling forms a critical part of that. But I may be wrong. You guys may be better able to answer that than me. I'm not too sure if let me put it that way. I think we have a lot more work to be done in the recycling of our material. I mean, utilizing the recycled days and times that are set for our villages and so on. Mm-hmm. Do you think that it's, not do you think, sorry, is that part of the campaign sorting at source to ramp up the recycling aspects of it?
Okay, so I'm just trying to be a little bit technical here. So the word recycling, or the definition of recycling, like a waste management kind of language, means really the production of a commodity. So in Dominica, we are sorting and we are separating our waste. But recycling in the terminology of waste management means you are producing a commodity. We have not gone that far, but all the system that is required for that is already on CAD. So we have grant financing for Euroclaimer, so we're going to construct a shed on the facility. We have monies from ACE facility for a grant financing, and we're going to have a turnkey solution that we could collect the material at the household level, shred it, and produce a commodity to be sold in Dominica. So that will complete our recycling methodology or recycling loop. What we note, Liam, is that our current discharge are collecting the recyclable material. So the word recyclable and recycle is two different language. So the recyclable material at the household level, we see the need to improve on our efficiency. And I think Rhoda could speak to the registration form that we developed. So we have a QR code, you could register, and then it would give us access to your personal information that when we come to, let's say, Goodwill, Solomon Lane, Greens Lane, we know Liam is registered, and that the truck will pay greater attention to some of those people within those communities. So we see the need for using ICT to improve on the efficiency of our collection system at the household level.
Rhoda, you want to speak about that form that he just mentioned?
Oh, but definitely. What we've recognized is that a lot of people to get involved in the recycling program, but as to how do they reach solid waste, how do solid waste reach them, and how do we keep track of who wants to recycle and who to pick up recycling from? So we've developed a form, and it's actually on our Facebook page. You can also call the corporation, and we can give you the link, and then you just register. And once you register, then we reach out to you and you become part of the recycling list, and that you'll get when the truck is coming, you'll get the updated recycling monthly schedule. And if the truck is not coming in your area, you will also get a message saying there's a delay in the truck today. So the recycling program is actually up to date, where you can actually get live on-hand information where recycling is concerned.
I love that. Moving with the time. So great job, Rhoda, Florian, and the solid waste team. Well, again, we're speaking about decentralization as well. Florian, I'm just here thinking in terms of opening up the possibility of opportunities or avenues for small groups, communities, as we move into the discussion of decentralization. Could this sorted at source open up possibilities or opportunities for small groups, village councils, that thing?
Yeah, so I am going back to the caller. So the caller say don't use the word waste and use resource. So which is a terminology we use, but sometimes when you use resource. So we need to consider opportunities within the waste management sector. So you could shred your plastic and you could develop you could do key rings, you could do different products out of plastic. We heard of the Prime Minister made mention couple cycles of the intention to raise, I think, $700 million for the agricultural sector. A quick study, a quick research, organic waste stream is an opportunity where we could produce compost for, say, locally, or we can produce an organic fertilizer. We could end up producing feed for rabbits, poultry. So these are some of the opportunities that we as residents could consider. If you're a farmer, if you're a community group, there are very low-key technologies that could be used to process particular waste stream, especially plastic and the organics, that you could produce a commodity that could be sold locally, and you could generate revenue for yourself and for your family. But traditionally, the waste management sector in the region has not been thought of as an avenue for job creation. But with the introduction of circularity economy approaches and the technologies are a bit more modular, these are areas that greater consideration should be had from the local residents in terms of generating revenue from waste management.
And Liam, I just want to let the public know it would be remiss of me to come on the radio, sit here and not mention that you can now pay your solid waste bill through More Banking. We have upgraded to the More Banking system, and we are now paying our More Banking. You can sit at your home in your car, all now, so you can stay online, Liam, and you can pay solid waste through More Banking. We are now a merchant, so when you go on your More Banking, you look for merchant, Dominica Solid Waste, you click it, you put in your name, you put in your address, and you put your amount, and you pay your bill in comfort.
Good job.
Thanks, Rhoda, for that.
As we said, we maybe have about 5 minutes left, but we have a few things to talk about quickly. Florian, we spoke a lot about what we should put and the days and all of that. But in terms of preparing for effective collection, how should we dispose of, our bottles? Should we, remove the cap? Should we squash the cans? How do we prepare, the glass, the plastics, the paper, and all those things for collection?
Okay, so as I said earlier on, because of the nature of glass, you have some challenges in terms of health and safety. In the ideal scenario, we would ask you to wrap it in some paper, but everybody doesn't really have that, and then that is an additional cost. So a crate would be the most practical thing to use. You have a crate, so you place your glass bottles in there, and then you place that crate out on the days and times of collection. If you do not, in the absence of a crate, you use your double bag. Use a double bag or triple bag system to place that bottle in there. A communal approach would be the best, but we don't have that level of infrastructure. So what we're saying, the same bags that you utilize from your grocery, you basically could utilize it. And it would help you in be able to separate the material. So that is an approach. For your plastic bottles, they are somewhat different in texture. So whereas a PET one, you might be able to remove the cover and compress it for space. That might not mean necessarily the same for PET 2. And PET 2 would be more your detergent type containers. Yes, you could remove your cap and compress it for reducing the space. It allows for enhancing your space. So and if you note, some plastic bottles, they reduce the PET in there, so you could just shrink it, you could just twist it, and it collapses. But all the packaging material that we use is not of that similar nature. In terms of the paper, we have not focused a lot on paper solely because you would require a housing facility for your paper, because when you're processing paper, you're compacting paper, if you have too much moisture, you cannot export it. But generally, according to the material you have, you could shred your material and you can put it in your backyard for composting, because paper is basically pulp that you could reuse through your compost. So again, it's just utilizing the necessary approaches that could be used. If you have paper and you don't know what to do with it, simple, you have a pizza, you eat pizza once every 2 weeks or whatever the nature may be, you shred it. You just cut it up, you reduce the volume, and then you put it in the bag. It allows for more space. And those are some of the simple things that we could do. Instead of taking your entire styrofoam stuff and just putting it out in a bin, and then you put your garbage down on the side. Shredding helps. And we could use our hand, we could shred, and we decrease on the volume of the material, allowing us more space in our bin. So this is a small approach. If you have the time and you want to take a hammer and knock your cans for more space, then you can. It's just being innovative in what you would like to do. I know putting the fish guts in the fridge might be troublesome for some of us, but rinsing the can is another approach. Again, that reduces on the smell. You are by the sink, your kitchen is right there, your stove is right there, you just rinse it out. So all that grease and that fat is out. So when you place that container or the packaging out, you don't have smell, it does not attract dogs, those kinds of approaches. But it depends on how creative you want to be, Liam, in terms. But again, just using your simple hand to just shred the paper or shred the styrofoam, then you reduces the volume, and then you have more space in your bag or in your receptacle to put waste. Are just simple approaches. And you can be stringent like my wife. Take that fish gut, put it in the bag, put it on the fridge. She knows the garbage truck is coming early on the first day. She put it out in the bin on the first day, and then you don't have issues with dogs. Yep. Or the
we leave that anything. Fish guts.
That's just a thing between us.
But Florian, as you said, it's almost 12, so we basically out of time. But I have one last question. If every household or the majority of households in Dominica started effectively sorting at source, what benefits or what improvement would that make on our, our ecosystems, the natural environment, as well as waste disposal and management?
Okay, so let me just say one. So one, our carbon footprint. So landfill by construct emits hundreds of tons of methane annually. And if we were to divert all the organic waste stream by simply sorting at source, that is a clear pathway to helping the government of Dominica in our NDCs. Because one of the things that we articulated in our NDC is that we are going to reduce GHG emission through the waste management sector, I think by 2050 by 78%. So by doing that, we are going to help with our net zero agenda. That is just period. So the issues we have with the earth and the warming, so you're going to have a reduction in cooling systems, less AC, less emission. So waste management and sorting has a direct correlation with emission, and by doing that, we can reduce our carbon footprint drastically. Again, the amount of land that you may need for developing landfilling and the level of probably ecosystem you may affect by going to put a landfill, and the issues that have arise when you have a landfill within a close proximity or communities, there are other inherent issues. So if you're able to sort and remove that material, again, you do not have any landfill. The health and the general mindset of being close to a landfill. I mean, I have not done any studies in terms of the mental stress on people living close to a landfill. So imagine you remove that waste from your home and it is sorted. It goes to a processing facility. So there is no need for having a landfill. There is no need for having a resident close to a landfill. There is no need. There's a reduction in the issues with health and other matters relating to having a landfill in close proximity to a community. Again, the resources or the financing that is required for developing a landfill is millions of dollars. So most times the government, whether it's the government of Dominica or wherever, we're going to have to contract loans, whether it's grant or whether it's blended. And so that is an actual cost. And again, all our taxes goes back into servicing loans. So by doing those simple activities, it's going to save you more in your pocket, whichever way you watch it. It's going to help to the greater agenda of reducing our emissions, among other benefits.
Okay, Florian, we and Rhoda, we out of time. Hazari is already here to have the next program. So in 1 minute, let us just wrap up quickly as we summarize our discussion.
Continue to sort at source. Separate your waste from your home.
Waste is a resource. It's our responsibility to manage our waste wherever it is generated. Do have a pleasant morning, everybody. And Liam, thanks for having us again. And kudos to all my team, from the street sweepers, Sonia and her crew, to Anne-Marie and the collections department and the landfill, and everybody else, the board. I just want to say kudos. We could not have done it without your support. And to our minister.
All right, Florian and Rhoda, thank you very, very much. In the coming weeks, you will be hearing from Solid Waste again as we prepare for Cleaner Mile. So stay tuned for that. But thank you very much for listening to the program this week. This brings us to the end. God willing, the program that we should have had last week will be aired next week as we talk environment and all the different policies and programs and so on. So I am Liam Sebastian signing out of Talking Environment or Responsibility, just encouraging everybody to be safe and be good. Thank you very much.